special guest, Victor Lucas.
Hi everybody, welcome to Podtoid episode 13, I guess the Canadian edition, seeing as how we have two Canadians with us. So we got Aaron and Colette as usual, and then joining us also we have Faith and our special guest, Mr. Victor Lucas.
Woo! Hello!
From a various amount of gaming-related shows, and I'm sure you've seen his face and heard his voice a million times, so...
Well, that's nice to hear.
Yeah.
And I'm lucky number 13, which is great.
That's right. This is going to turn out great.
So we wanted to start out just first talking to Victor about what he's doing, where he came from, things like that, because while you may have seen him on television, you may not know all that much more about him other than he likes these certain kind of games, and he plays Tommy's, I don't know, good guy, good cop to Tommy's. Whoa. Faith, is that your boyfriend?
Mad.
Sorry.
No.
So, Victor, what are you doing now? Let's start with that.
I'm playing games. I'm getting ready for a review shoot that I'm doing with Tommy next week at CES in Vegas.
Oh, cool. So you guys are going to be there?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we're going to be there. A whole bunch of us are going to be there.
It's been a pretty busy holiday, actually, for us. We just closed a pretty cool deal with Rogers and G4 Tech TV Canada. This is our Canadian broadcaster. They've locked up Electric Playground and Reviews on the Run, which Americans knew as Judgment Day on G4. It started as Reviews on the Run, but it's been Reviews on the Run since 1997. But they locked up EP and Reviews on the Run for the next couple of years, and then they gave us a couple of other shows that they produce in Toronto to produce in Vancouver. So we've been taking on the new production and trying to deal with all the details with how we're going to start up this new daily show and the new weekly show that are going to be added to our roster. So right now we're looking at about 6 shows that we're going to be in production on in 2007, 2008.
These new shows, are these shows you're going to be appearing on yourself, or are these shows you're just going to be participating in the development of, or that kind of thing?
No, I'm trying to not be on camera as much as I find that I'm talking way too much on camera, and it's upsetting me. No, I'm really trying to get myself behind the camera a lot more, and just put some other faces out there and work with some other people. Our company's growing a little bit, so that's going to be awesome. And actually, the main show that we're taking over is Call for Help, which started as a Tech
that's right, on
show.
Tech TV, yeah.
Yes, and then G4 Tech TV Canada picked it up, and they've been producing Call for Help out of Toronto, and we've been talking over the last couple of years about potentially making a move to Vancouver, and the last few months we kind of fast-tracked the idea, and we put it together. So Leo Laporte is still going to remain as the host. We're changing the name of the
that makes
show.
me so happy.
Yeah,
that's
and
good to
so
hear.
I love Leo Laporte.
Yeah, he's a great guy, man, and he knows exactly what he's doing, and
He does.
he's just a fountain of information, and I'm really excited to be working with him. So he's going to be flying up to Vancouver now, and we're going to be shooting that show. It'll be called something else, and I'll tell you guys that our interest is in growing the viewership and the distribution. That's what we're trying to do with everything that we're producing. We want to get them seen all over the place. So we're going to be talking to lots of broadcasters in the States, but we're also going to be exploring internet distribution and all kinds of other cool stuff.
Awesome. So we might see Call for Help maybe back in the U.S.?
Yes, but it won't be called Call for Help, but it'll be starring Leo Laporte.
So we'll be getting Leo Laporte back on TV in the United States. That's kind of cool.
That's the plan. That's what we're trying.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying.
It's like back to the glory days.
Absolutely. And the cool thing is that we're actually going to be moving all of our shows, except for one of them, into HD production. So there's potential that EP, Reviews on the Run, the new Call for Help will all be in HD somewhere, which will be cool.
So we can see every freckle and every pore on your face. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, it'll be an inch of makeup, so I'll be okay.
Awesome. Well, you already have The Art of Play on HD, don't you?
That's right. That was our first HD show. That's the one that we launched last year with Gameplay HD, and that was just an amazing thing that came together, and we were very, very grateful for that relationship. They're great people to work with, and we didn't know anything about HD production, so we had to kind of jump in and really understand the technology. And I'll tell you, man, it was pretty tricky. It's not as easy as just hooking up a VCR and recording gameplay footage as it's been for EP interviews in the run. It's a lot of little hurdles to overcome. But the great news is that, as I'm sure you guys are aware with video podcasting and all the technology that's out there right now, it's just there's a lot of options for HD production. It's really becoming easier to do this kind of stuff. So it's exciting for us.
So, Victor, how did you get started in all this? Like, how long ago, and what got you started in video gaming and doing all these different shows?
Well, I've always loved video games all my life. I was the kid at school that everybody hung out with on the weekends and played games because I had all the games at home. I had a paper route when I was a kid, and I'd spend all my money on video games, and my friends would all hang out with. My mom was so pissed off, and she wanted to charge me the electricity. She wanted to give me the electrical bill because we were all hanging out playing it. Did you get that?
I got that too. You're in good company, believe me.
Yeah, well, I was diehard for that stuff, and then I was also I got into acting. I was an acting school student and did some professional work and stuff, and then I was out getting auditions and doing okay, but got a bit fed up with kind of putting my fate in somebody else's hands, and so I started looking at the things that really interested me, and I put the idea together around producing my own show about video games and a show that I would like to see on TV, because everything else I'd seen about video games on TV had sucked. It had all been really, superficial and all about the either the violence or the money. It's always about the controversy or the exciting success out of nowhere. So I said, screw that. This is an art form. It needs to be profiled. We need to know who these developers are. And I created the draft for Electric Playground in 1994, and started.
That was really early. Yeah, like you said. I mean, back then, gaming on TV really wasn't. I mean, it wasn't much.
It was Game Pro in the States, and it was Video Arcade Top 10 in Canada.
Okay.
And
God, that show's still on.
I know it's still on, and it was just an infomercial.
Still bad.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
And that's what, I was in my 20s then, and I was being force-fed this crap, and I was just like, come on. I was spending $400 a month on games back then, and, I would reward myself on good auditions with games and on bad auditions with games, and so I really wanted to, I wanted to, be faithful to this passion that I had, and pursue something that had a little more integrity and a little bit.
So how did you hook up with Tommy?
I met him at E3. I met him at the very first E3 in 1995, and I interviewed him. So the very first time that we ever met is on camera, which is pretty cool. We've been able to run that clip a few times, but we hit it off right away, and we just were kind of joking with each other right away. And then I met him again the following year at E3 again, and he invited us to his party after the convention was wrapped. And while I was at his house, I noticed how many games he had everywhere. And they weren't just all the games that he had already worked on, because he'd done tons by that time as a composer. But he just loved games, and I really saw that. And I also caught at E3 how many people in the industry knew who he was. And this has been a couple of years into sort of the development of Electric Playground as a TV show, and I thought that having somebody that the industry kind of knew already as a host within EP would make a lot of sense, and I think it would open some doors for us in terms of friends allowing us in with our cameras and stuff like that, and that's exactly what happened. So
how did
Tommy to be a host, and he was.
So how did that it's kind of evident that good cop, I guess bad cop vibe come about? Was that just a natural thing, or is that just how we perceive it and it's not really true? Or
well, you know what? That's what you see on television is who we are. We both are incredibly passionate about video games, but we both have our own takes on them. And I think what's happened is that because Tommy he was making games and he worked with developers all the time, he has a little less patience for things that he sees developers taking shortcuts on than I might. And also like a lot more types of games, a lot more genres of games than Tommy does. Tommy's, admittedly not into RPGs and real-time strategy games, and I give those games a lot more time, and I like them, so I just like more games than Tommy does, and that's sort of what's ended up with the way that we critique things. But I think it's actually turned out pretty interesting because I think Tommy has a pretty rabid fan base out there, and his tastes in games kind of parallel a core demographic of gamers out there, and I think mine do as well.
Yeah,
So
and it's never good to have people that think the exact same way about video games. I mean, that's kind of one of the things that I like about the dynamic we have at Destructoid is that Suma and I will never ever meet eye to eye on practically anything, and I think that actually works out well for us as a whole. So yeah,
I'm
it's
sort of like his Tommy to.
Yeah, to my victory. Yeah, that's how it works. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty cool though that it worked out that way because he was already an insider, and I gave him an opportunity to be on television and be representative for the industry that way, and I got an opportunity to break into the business by the connection with him as well. Like actually get to know a lot of people within the video game community because they were friends of Tommy's. So.
That's
cool.
And
over 10 years, it's been more than 10 years that we've been working together. We've become really great friends, and I've made a lot of really cool relationships in the video game industry.
So you said that you were at the first E3. Were you sad or happy to see it kind of go?
I was I was shocked, to be honest. I was shocked, and I never envisioned that my little show would be around longer than E3. I know it surprises me all the time that we've been able to maintain and have this level of success with Electric Playground. It's quite humbling because I never knew what was going to happen when I launched. I didn't know if it was going to be on one TV station or if it was going to be a national Canadian show. I had no idea that we were going to be on Discovery Science for years, and we self-syndicated it down the west coast of the U.S. for a few seasons, and then of course had its play on G4.
So
and,
what happened
10 years into it?
What happened with G4?
G4 is completely changing. They're moving away from games as fast as they can. It looks like to me.
Did they ever talk to you? What did they tell you guys as they started slimming it down? Did they discuss things with you?
Yeah, I've known about these changes for a while, absolutely. And it's been disappointing, but it's a big business that they're running. I think I wouldn't want to be in their executive shoes at all right now because they're a Nielsen-driven business and they're being raked over the coals right now by their owners and the shareholders within Comcast and they have some pretty tough numbers that they have to hit. They're in 60 million homes, and I think right now they're not a very highly rated network at all, and so advertisers are going away from them, and they're desperately trying to figure out new ways to attract viewers and new ways to attract advertising. Go ahead.
Do you think we'll ever see a tech TV type network again?
Yes, absolutely. I think what G4 has done, I think the problem is that G4, well, there's a lot of issues that came into the G4 has evolved, and these are just my observations and speculations, but I think the genesis of the idea was sound. I think that the idea for 24 hours of either tech coverage or game coverage or some kind of combination together is all good. I think that makes a lot of sense, and I think people will watch that kind of content on television.
I certainly would. Yeah.
Well, it's still surviving in Canada. We didn't lose our tech TV.
Yeah, but here's the difference, though. In Canada, it remains a digital cable subscription-based network, and so it's not driven with the same kind of veracity. Obviously, they want big ratings and all that stuff, but when you're playing in this very competitive marketplace, they had to spend millions and millions of dollars to buy that tech TV, because you guys know what happened, right? Comcast bought tech TV and blended the distribution. That was an enormous deal. That was a lot of money that they had to spend on that. And after Comcast had already invested $150 million in launching G4 to begin with. And they were already actively buying up distribution, meaning they were going to different cable companies and asking them to put G4 and paying for them to put G4 on to their channel roster. And then they went and bought the Tech TV and increased it even more. So I think all of the ideas and all of the choice to kind of really take advantage of this marketplace and this distribution, all that was sound, but I think it was a bit of cart before the horse, and I think there really wasn't enough effort, I think, put into just shaping the content, on a show by show basis, so that you had lots and lots of strong, individual unique shows. And I think that I've heard some criticisms about the way that G4 kind of looked to outsiders, and it looked like the same show was running over and over again. And, I think they ran into some challenges that way. But, the tough thing is that they shot for the moon and they went for the big win. And I think that probably the smarter, more, the one that would have had longevity is to just kind of grow that audience a little more gradually, with better shows. And, unfortunately, they couldn't play that game because of the business that they're in.
So how can someone do it
TV,
right?
Man.
So how can someone do it right?
They keep it small. They keep it down to about a 10 million or 12 million subscriber base or viewership base. So it'd be in 10 or 12 million homes. It's not 10 or 12 million viewers. There's a big difference. So if it's in about 10 or 12 million homes, and you can actually gain some momentum with people picking up the subscription, and they're actually paying for, whether it's like $1 a month or something like that. So you have a little bit of a subscription revenue stream coming in, and then you get some active advertisers attached to that want that demo. I think if you play that card for as long as you can, in the meantime, find some very clever ways not to overspend on making good shows, and that's been a big challenge. They're based in Hollywood, man.
I would think that's just I would think that's just such a ripe market for an advertiser to pick. You got these people that, like, as far as tech-wise, early adopters that will spend
lots of
all their money on these tech items, and it just seems like a very untapped market that's kind of ignored.
It's true. You're right. But I think that there's a couple of things there, that the marketers out there that are in charge of those advertising budgets that actually do those media buys, they just care about numbers. They care about Nielsen's, and they care about, the amount of households that they're buying into more often than the nature of the environment. Sometimes the environment makes a difference, especially if you're going straight to NVIDIA or something like that. If you're talking directly to the client and they go, yes, I want to be a part of this new tech network, against their media buyers' wishes, sometimes you can get their support. But a media buyer is just looking for as many households as they can get into, as many eyeballs as they can see. And the other big thing that's going on right now, too, is that technology and video games, they are no longer a niche market. They're completely mainstream. How many video game ads do you watch on Spike TV and MTV?
A lot now.
Tons.
Yeah.
Well, and now we're living in an era now where there's a video game award show, for crying out loud,
Yeah, it's ubiquitous. And same with technology. And we can't live without our iPods and our laptops and everything. This stuff is not foreign to anybody anymore, So the niche of it now, I think, and the idea of developing a network, squarely focused on this type of content is a bit niche oriented, and that's not a bad term. I don't think that signifies anything derogatory. I just think that if you head in that direction, it might be a little bit trickier to entice the advertisers than it was 10 years ago. So I still think it can be done, and I think it will be done. And I think that because G4 is kind of moving in this Spike TV, Comedy Central type of direction, they've left a big opening for another player out there to come up with another network.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So what? Back to video games. What sort of games are you playing now? What's catching your eye? Do you play in your free time?
I play all the time. I pretty much play every day. But when I have review shoots, the way that we shoot reviews in the run, because Tommy and I don't live in the same city, and we can't just shoot one a week, which is too bad. It would be great if we could. But we have to kind of stockpile the shows, so we do like sometimes 2, sometimes 4 at a time. And next week we're actually shooting 4 shows. So
Wow.
I'm playing 20 games right now.
Oh my
Oh
god!
God.
I'm stacked up with tons and tons of games. And today I was playing the Super Monkey Ball on the Wii, and
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was playing a lot of. Actually, you know what? For the first 2 hours, I wanted to. I had a raging headache playing that game, and I realized it was the damn music was just driving me insane. I wish Sega would hire some people that just just had some subtlety. You know, they don't have to pound it over your head every 2 seconds. But I just turned the volume down, and then I started to get into the groove of the control, and it was actually by the third level, the third world of Super Monkey Ball, I started to get hooked. And then the mini games are ridiculous. I don't know if you guys have seen the mini games for that disc, but it's like it shows off all of the Wii remote's capabilities. So you're actually playing darts, and you're
the darts game is like the best thing about that game. I wasted so much time with the darts game.
Yeah, it was just cool, even just interacting with the jigsaw puzzles, and they've got a basketball throwing thing. I mean, there's just seems like this never-ending cascade of different ways to use the Wiimote, so I thought that was okay. The other Wii game I was playing today was Need for Speed Carbon, and I think EA did a pretty good job with the different control choices that they did for that game. I thought it was okay. But Zelda's been eating up tons and tons of my time. I still haven't finished it, but man, that game is it's the best looking game Nintendo's ever made. And I keep reading and hearing that the graphics for that game they don't compete with what's out there for the PS3 and the Xbox 360, and maybe in terms of resolution they don't, but I don't think in terms of artistic merit,
art design and that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a beautiful game. It's absolutely beautiful.
That's definitely. I mean, I'm not a super fan of it, but that's one of the things. That's one of the criticisms I didn't understand was people criticizing the art of it. I actually really like the art and the darkness.
It's kind of like Shadow of the Colossus, where even the more dated that the PS2 becomes, Shadow of the Colossus is always going to be just a gorgeous game.
It's so gorgeous.
One of the best games ever made. Absolutely,
absolutely, yeah.
Outstanding game, and it's obvious to me that the designers at Nintendo have been playing that game and God of War.
Yeah, exactly.
That's Persia.
Well, yeah, you only have to watch the opening cinematic, before you get to the press start to play kind of screen, where you have Link riding around on the horse, and there are these big kind of cut off, these cliffs, and it's so the scenery is just so cinematic in so many ways. I was just like, wow, they were playing a lot of Shadow of the Colossus. They got to.
Yeah.
See, this is the thing that's it's kind of interesting to me about the PS3 backlash that's going on out there right now. I think people have a very forgetful kind of state about them because Sony has the best developers in the world working for them. I mean, they have such incredible diversity within their ranks. I mean, these are the guys that pay for the development of games like Parappa the Rappa, Shadow of the Colossus, the Jak and Daxter games. Well, that was made by Capcom. But Sony is like really funding some innovative games, and people just completely overlook how much power they have as a first-party game maker, and I think people are counting the PS3 out a little bit too soon.
Well, I think right now that the big reason I can see why, like for example, I don't know if you've listened to any of our previous podcasts, but we've butted heads over, early adoption on any one of the new systems right now.
Yeah.
And the point that we keep coming back to is the limited availability of, there's really not much variety in any of the consoles, or rather not in any, but I mean, Xbox is doing pretty good, but PS2 and Wii, we have our big bundles of launch titles, and none of them really stand out. I mean, Zelda I thought was pretty good. Resistance looks fantastic, but that's kind of it.
Yeah.
We're not, and my assertion is that when these games start coming in, the games that are really going to draw me in, like if Fumito Ueda does another Shadow of the Colossus style game on the PS3, that's the day that I get one. I certainly hope so.
Well, I think this stuff sort of always happens. System launches. It's just this is the first time the internet has really been huge during a major system launch.
Right.
So it's everything is completely overblown.
It's been quite shocking for me to see this, with
everyone's screaming at the top of their lungs.
I think it's completely out of whack.
I just can't believe the negativity, the rampant negativity. It's just ridiculous. It's like, people just need to take a chill pill and realize it's video games.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, yeah,
And
people associate themselves a little too closely with their console of choice for my taste. Like, when people start becoming personally offended, if you say, I'm not going to buy a PS3, or I'm not going to get a Wii, I think the Wii's graphics are crap, or something like that, and people actually get upset, that's when you have to be like, hey, man, take a step back. you know, come on, relax.
Yeah, I mean, again, people should remember, too, launched with that stupid fireworks game. I can't even remember what it's called now. You guys remember that? The fireworks?
No.
Yeah, it was, what was it for? I remember it, but not what, like, how did you play it?
I can't even remember. It was brutal. It was like a tech demo, and it was like a full price game, and it launched. It was a Sony developed game. It started with an F, and I can't remember.
Fantavision.
Yeah.
I own that game.
Yeah.
Not too proud to say it, but that's one of the games I got to launch along with Armored Core 2, and that's the one that definitely saw a little bit less play than the other one.
Yeah, I mean that was no highlight.
Fantavision. Oh,
yeah.
Fantavision.
Who in their right mind said, you know what? I like fireworks and I like puzzle games. Let's put them together. You know.
Yeah.
Although the iToy fireworks game, did you guys ever play that one?
No, I haven't got around to it.
That was pretty cool. You're actually standing. You're this giant, and the fireworks are going off all around you, and you touch it with your finger. Well, because you're in the camera, right? So you touch it with your finger, and then they explode. It actually was a pretty cool effect. I thought that was an all right game, made by Sony, right there.
I think the best way for everyone to look at all the new consoles is to basically sit back, wait 6 months to a year, and then see what the consoles are doing. I mean, I waited till, a year for the Xbox 360 to a point where I'm like, okay, you know what? Dead Rising looks pretty amazing. Okay, gonna have to buy it. Gears of War looks really amazing. Gonna have to buy it.
That game's a work of art, man. That game is.
It is. It is indeed.
Unbelievable.
No, I totally agree. I totally agree.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a first-person shooter person, but Gears of War, definitely gonna have to pick it up at some point.
Oh, that's incredible. I'll tell you, with the 360, I was playing the Xbox Live Arcade games, Geometry Wars, more than any of the launched titles at all. I kept going back to arcade and going, okay, this is not worth $500, but it's really fun.
Yeah.
Well, I'm especially pleased with Geometry Wars, if only because I've noticed people say I've heard people say, hey, Geometry Wars is pretty good. I should pick up Gradius or something, and I'm like, yes, thank God, play more skill-driven, hardcore score grinding games. That makes me so happy that if games like Geometry Wars and Xbox Live Arcade is what brings the shooter genre back to the United States, oh my God, I will lick Peter Moore's feet. I swear to God, I will.
Well, it seems like this is the cool thing about all these connected. We talk about the internet being a kind of a pissing match on the different consoles, and people sort of getting up at arms against something that they don't own. But the good thing that's going on right now is everything's connected, and every console has a way to access the back catalog, as well as all these independently developed games. And I think that's freaking cool, man. I'm really psyched about that. I love downloading $5 games and having a good time for half an hour or 45 minutes, and then knowing that it's safely tucked on my hard drive. I think that's so awesome.
Yeah,
it is indeed.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you, Victor. And so
welcome.
let's move on to, the reader question portion.
Okay.
So we kind of touched on some of these things already, which always happens, but Resbit wanted to know, how can video game television be fixed from the absolute mediocrity it is at the moment? He said, is there a fundamental problem with getting gamers to watch stuff they can find on the internet with a mouse click? There seems to be tension in how geeky or casual to make shows.
Yeah, I notice that when I'm watching stuff, and I don't sort of think that we're doing the perfect job out there either, but I do think that we kind of found a pretty nice balance between being able to talk about this stuff casually and not coming off as way over the top too geeky, as well as not trying to be too hypey and too cheeseball, But there is a balance, man. There is a balance, and I see producers and people on camera struggle with it all the time. And I don't know so much if it's if it's direct correlation with the way that people can get this information on the web. I do know that that's a pretty big sort of thing to compete against, because the web is instantaneous. I find it hard to watch a lot of stuff on the web, though, because it's unedited for the most part, and I come from making television, and I like to I like to see stuff sort of wrapped up in 2.5 minutes or something.
Well, I like X-Play. I mean, I guess X-Play is kind of a good balance. I don't know if you like X-Play or not, but
I like the writing on X-Play, but I'm not going to be. I'm not going to be nasty.
Allow me to say it, Ben. Allow me to say it. I watch both Electric Playground, Reviews on the Run, and X-Play, and what I like about Reviews on the Run is that you guys each have your own opinions, which are your own opinions and not that of the writers.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see not only you talking about the game and saying this is what's good about it, this is what needs to be fixed on it, but you also get to see the footage as you guys are talking. I like that Electric Playground has no bias, and they basically just say, this is the game coming up, this is the person that's behind it, we interview them, and this is what you're going to get. No saying that the game sucks or that it's good, it's just coming out, here it is. And I like X-Play for their humor, but a lot of time they do a review and you're sitting there going, okay, was that supposed to be a good game or a bad game? Because
it's like a 4-minute long dick joke, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a 4-minute long joke about Dick Cheney shooting somebody. Meanwhile, they were reviewing Monkey Balls or something, and it's like, I got a 3 out of 5. Is it a bad game or a good game?
Well, there's an art to what they're doing for sure, and I appreciate and I respect how much work is going into those shows, but I think it's pretty obvious that that's not the kind of show that I want to make. I mean, I've never made a show like that. I've never made a show where I've had a couple of people reading off prompters in a studio talking about video games. Those are the shows. Those are the kinds of shows I watched that kind of inspired me to create Electric Playground.
And it's kind of like what Faith was saying a minute ago about how it's obvious that you guys have differing opinions, whereas on X-Play, it's kind of like Morgan Webb is just some sort of appendage hanging off of Adam Sessler that just happens to have breasts. It's like, well, she's there, but she doesn't really say anything, that seems like to be her own words or anything. It's kind of like these sort of, punctuation kind of, sure. It's all these agreements. And
Morgan has tons and tons of fans. And
I know she does, and I know they're a hard-working bunch, and I respect the hell out of them for what they do, but like you said, the jokes are funny, but they're so forced, and you can almost see the teleprompter that they're reading off of. And
the bottom line is that I think gamers want to relate to other gamers on a realistic level, and I don't feel like, I feel like, Victor, that obviously sounds like something with Electric Playground that you really want to do, and obviously it's hitting a lot of people in that vein.
That's exactly what we tried to do. And the other thing that we really wanted to do was create a show that the development community watched. And I hear this all the time when I'm out there. I mean, they watched the show. They were so pissed off that G4 was burying the show and never promoting it because they were on it, and they're giving us their time so that we can go and visit their studios and put them on camera and let them talk about the hard work that they're doing, and that's and they like the show. So that has always been a very rewarding thing for me, is that the people that make games like what we're doing with them.
That's a good sign.
Cool. So, so Mix Yez Pitlick, I can't pronounce his name.
That's Superman's arch nemesis.
I hate Superman, so I don't know.
I don't know how to say that. But he's a bad guy in the Superman Returns game, which is another one I've been playing. It's brutal.
Robert, you aren't even a human being.
It's Mixlick.
Superman's lame. Are you kidding?
No, you're kidding.
God.
Superman rules.
Batman for the win. Okay, so he had a good question. Is video game media coverage the same as in Canada as in the U.S.? And what do you mean? What he's getting at is, do you see the ridiculous stories like we see in the U.S., like PSP download porn magically from air, or like a game kills children, news at 11, that kind of stuff? Do you guys get that same sort of coverage in Canada?
Dude, I see that same kind of slap-ass, really lazy type of coverage all the time, and I get calls all the time from the traditional media just as some kind of controversial event is about to happen. Like Bully will be coming out, and I'll get a message. Somebody will hand me a message. Somebody from somewhere called me because they want to talk about Bully, and it's pathetic. It's just these uninformed news media that are trying to tap into some kind of fear of God kind of phenomenon,
right?
And and they want to get some expert out there, and then they want to just show some shit to scare. Oh, can I swear?
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
Swear as often and as loud as you want.
All right.
We are
They just wanna-
explicit
they just
on
wanna put
iTunes.
Good. Well, they want to put the fear of God into people that don't know better, you know. And what I constantly tell people, man, is if you don't understand this world and you don't get games and you're freaked out because they're all about violence, is sit down and play some. And if you're freaked out, your kid is playing stuff and you know they're going to go shoot somebody. Sit down and play the fucking games with them. You know, sit down and get to know what the hell they're doing, and sit down and watch the shows with them. And don't just sit there and let video games or television or movies or music be a babysitter.
Yeah.
Be involved.
Or like buy them mature-rated games and then get all pissed off. I used to work at EB Games, incidentally, and that was something I had to deal with on a weekly basis. Was you know, mothers who would come in and say, "I want to buy Grand Theft Auto San Andreas," and I'd be like, and they have a 12-year-old kid next to them, and I'm like, "Hey, you know, just heads up, this game has lots of killing and all kinds of nasty shit."
And then
in
the
it.
kid
You
looked
should-
at you really mean.
Yeah, and then and she says, "Well, he says it's okay, so let's go for it." And then she comes back the next day, furious as hell, and I'm like, "Fuck, lady, I fucking told you." You know?
Told you.
That's like a cartoon right there, man. That's so preposterous. And people could just educate themselves just a little bit. You know, there's a lot of choice out there. It isn't all Grand Theft Auto. It isn't all, you know, murder simulators.
Yeah, it's Grand Theft Auto and Viva Pinata, so it's all good.
Yeah. Have you guys played that Viva Pinata?
Yes.
Yes,
It's
unfortunately.
ridiculously good. I couldn't
I love
believe
that
it.
game.
I couldn't believe I liked it, and I played it. I played enough that I could put a review on television about it, but I couldn't stop playing the damn thing. My garden was changing so quickly I couldn't put it down. I was like, it's ridiculous.
And you just felt your masculinity just torn away from you, right?
I know Tommy's going to kill me when we review this thing. I know, but it's a fun game. They did a good job, and then they quit.
You know, it's funny, Victor. It was to mock the game, of course, and mock the fact that people freak out about games having bad content before they even know what they're looking at. But I did a post talking about the evils of Viva Pinata and about like watching them dance and the suggestive sexual innuendos in their dance.
Yeah.
And,
How it's all sex and racism, essentially. Yeah.
Well, it's really weird is that you name these little creatures and then somebody will come along and kill them and eat them and they shatter into a million pieces and spit out candy everywhere. And like that's not going to be cool for kids that are putting all their time and effort into having these little animals and their as pets, and then boom, they're dead.
There's going to be definitely
Just to have their innards strewn across the garden. Yeah.
The thing that I don't like about that, and the thing that bugs me about games like Yu-Gi-Oh, how do you say it?
Yu-Gi-Oh, I think.
Yu-Gi-Oh, and Pokemon. Although I think some of the earlier incarnations of some of these titles are actually usually pretty fun. I just don't like that they're all engineered so that kids just get hooked on the collecting, and it's just like this. This neuroses of trying to get all the stuff. And I think the silliness of Viva Pinata, where you can actually get online and buy all kinds of stuff to put onto your pinatas, is pretty bizarre. But the gameplay is good, man. Gameplay is good. They did a good job.
I couldn't get past all the cutscenes. I just couldn't play it anymore.
Yeah, no, I'll tell you, Tommy's not enjoying it, but
No.
I think
I wanted to blow
He doesn't
stuff
really
up.
seem like the Viva Pinata sort. I guess.
After about an hour playing that, I just wanted to shoot people in the head and blow stuff up. And,
so back goes Gears of War right in your
there you go.
Xbox.
Right.
That's
Robert,
exactly
did you
what-
let my Horstachio die?
Yeah, they're probably all dead. I haven't touched that game since
You just
Well,
go back
I'll tell
and
you.
it's like an abandoned wasteland, corpses everywhere, and
I
That'd be
had
great.
I had the demo at E3 this year with the guy that invented Viva Pinata, and he sat down and he walked us through, and all I saw was this little circle going across this grass, and every once in a while a plant would grow or something, and I'm like, this is ridiculous. They wanted me to interview the guy afterwards, and I had to tell the PR person we would never cover this game on Electric Playground, because we're trying not to make it a kiddie type show. It's more for adult gamers, quote unquote.
that game's for adults.
It is.
Yeah, it is
really
really
is.
hard for
Yeah.
kids.
I totally read the book by its cover. I totally misjudged it, because it's actually a fun game. It's very well thought out. But
like
it does
the
make you
cartoon.
want to shoot people afterwards.
Yeah.
You
So
should put that on the box.
So Ian S had a question. Tommy's on tour. Is there anything that you do, Victor, outside of TV work, or is everything pretty much centered around your. I guess you have a production company, or
Yeah, I own Greedy Productions, which is the company that produces all these shows. And the way I look at it is the reward of my job is the actual time that I get to be in front of the camera talking to people or talking about video games. That's actually the fun that I get to have, or playing the games, as I get ready to go out and talk about them. But the work is, organizing all the shoots, making sure that all the travel is hooked up, that we've got all the episodes all scripted and sort of outlined, and sort of all the planning that goes into these shows is ridiculous.
Yeah,
And
sure.
so I work pretty hard. I absolutely do. I work at least 6 or 7 days a week, and there's not too much time for me to have extracurricular activities.
Sounds like my life.
I do work with other companies every once in a while, and I'll consult with different people and stuff like that. But I certainly don't have, I'm not making a movie on the side or anything like that. Right?
Well, as soon as you start, let us know.
Hush Gush wanted to know where the Batwing nickname comes from. Is that true? Batwing.
Yeah, that's my nickname. That's my.
So where'd that
handle.
come from? Just from a Batman fan, or?
Yeah, I'm a huge Batman fan.
Superman sucks.
Superman
I'm a DC guy, so I always like Superman, but he is a bit of a pansy next to Batman, I gotta say.
He is.
He is. He's tough as hell, and and he can move mountains and all that stuff. But
but
he's just a bit of a milquetoast.
Yeah.
Batman's the real deal, man.
Yeah. Superman he can be killed on occasion, I guess, as they have a couple of times. But I mean, he's indestructible. What's fun about that? Batman's, a mortal dude.
He's taking the risk, man.
That's
absolutely.
Right.
I've heard a great theory about heroes as well. And what makes a great hero is their roster of villains. And nobody comes close to the bad guys that Batman has.
That's true. That's true.
So that's why I've always liked Batman. And I don't know where Batwing came from. I guess I wanted to just have a distillation off of Batman. I always liked. I liked Nightwing as well, which is the grown-up Dick Grayson. The original Robin grows up to become Nightwing. Right. So it's a bit of a combination, I guess.
Yeah, I love the Frank Miller, the graphic novels.
Oh, man, me too.
Especially where he beats up Superman.
That was amazing. And, and he enlists an army of believers to go and take back the city. That's some pretty cool stuff.
So Edson has a question I'm sure the girls will like. Does Tommy get all the ass, or do you?
Well, I'm married, so I get a lot more ass than Tommy did. I would say that Tommy actively pursues getting as much ass as he can, and he's done a pretty good job with it, I think.
Yeah, he's had Playboy ass.
Yes.
So, the Uber one wants to know, I guess from all of us, what do we want more, Devil May Cry 4 or Halo 3?
Wow.
I know what Aaron's answer is.
Metal Gear Solid 4.
See? Ha-ha! Only one! Thank you, Victor. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. See, I take a lot of shit from pretty much everyone ever who has ever lived on this earth ever for not being a big Halo fan.
Yeah.
So when everyone sprays their pants over the new Halo 3, 3.5 second video, and I'm just kind of like, whatever. I take a lot of flack for it. So yes, I agree. Yeah, Metal Gear Solid 4, I'm right there with you. What?
I hate Halo.
Yay! Okay, good.
So you
guys are
Legion.
all wrong.
See, we're a club of 3. There's 3 of us. That's it. That's all.
I love Halo, and I think Devil May Cry 4 is going to be amazing. But I don't know if you guys played Metal Gear 3 to the end. That game just riveted me.
It's unreal. It's an
It has.
game.
It's the most brilliant. People gave Kojima a lot of crap for Metal Gear Solid 2, and he really made up with it for 3. I mean, the boss is just. She's the most well-developed and amazing villain, and that finale in Metal Gear Solid 3 was one of the most powerful end games I've ever experienced.
Absolutely, I went out and bought the soundtrack for the music. There's a Star Sailor has a song at the end as the credits roll, and I was so moved because of this, 30 hours of gameplay that I just lived through, and that end credit sequence was just like, wow, man. It was I felt just totally just overcome by the incredible gameplay experience that I'd had, and I loved the music, so I went and bought the CD right after I finished the game. It was absolutely outstanding, man. It was just an incredible piece of work. So I really hope that Metal Gear 4 lives up to it. I was not a fan of Metal Gear 2, I kept trying to get into it, but
the story was just, it was like, that was the Twilight Zone of Metal Gear. It really was.
Yeah.
After such a fluid experience in Metal Gear 1, and after such a lucid experience.
Is that the one with all the flashbacks and stuff?
Metal Gear 2?
3 is.
Yeah, I never played those games. I don't really like them, but I used to watch my friends play them in college, and I remember there was one where there's like a flashback, and there was a guy with white hair or something, or
isn't that 3?
That's 2 with
yeah,
I think it was 2.
Raiden.
Yeah,
Raiden. Whatever the guy.
Yeah, that's what they did was they jumped the shark, and about 2 hours into the game, they replaced Solid Snake with another hero.
Yeah, that was it. I remember watching that. I just sat there and watched my friend play it
and on top of that, it was just the most cracked out storyline ever. I mean, and it was like, it was there were some good ideas. It was just way too ambitious for its reach. I mean, they only had a limited amount of space to work in, and the kind of stuff that Kojima ostensibly wanted to do, he couldn't do in that space. I don't think he could do it with the Tolstoy novel, for crying out loud.
Whereas 3 just kept, throwing all kinds of gameplay surprises at you, and the story was unbelievably, compelling, and all the cutscenes are just cool, and it escalates. It doesn't sort of plateau. It just keeps getting cooler and cooler all the way. It does,
yes.
It's definitely worth investing time for.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So now we're going to move on to the top 20, I guess, in our Buzz Meter. Basically, we're just going to pick the stories that were kind of hot this week. We have some older stuff on there, but up first, Aaron actually did a post this week on the 5 reasons to own a PSP, which, besides the PS3, the PSP certainly gets crapped on a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes for very good reasons, sometimes for not. But, Aaron, you want to talk about your 5 reasons?
Yeah, sure. Essentially, for those of you who haven't seen the post, I just kind of went over some of the things that I thought were good reasons. I mean, the reasons that I think, I'm a DS owner. I love my DS. I don't think I'm ever going to have as much fun with my PSP as I am with my DS. However, I don't think the PSP was a waste of money. And especially with the support that the PSP is getting from Capcom, especially, which was one of my points, and a lot of the third-party support they're going to be getting in the next year, it seems like if anyone's kind of on the fence right now about buying a PSP, now's certainly the time.
Well, I don't know. I would wait, because I think there's going to be a new version of the PSP pretty soon.
See, and I'm afraid of that too.
You think within a year?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh,
really?
Shit.
Oh, well, that sucks. So. Dude, way to knock over my snowman.
Do you think the full hard drive non-UMD one's coming, or is it?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
I do. I think the lack of success with UMD movies, as much as Sony would hate to admit that that's what's going on, but I can't see any evidence to the contrary. I think that.
Yeah.
And we all know how long UMDs take to load. They got some issues with the design of the first unit. I love it, though. I mean, it's an incredible piece of technology when it's all loaded.
Right, exactly.
When everything's playing and it's all working and you're going, holy shit, I'm playing this on a handheld? This is amazing. Yeah. And there are games that definitely draw that out of you. But,
but there are definitely some games that push the loading extreme, to the extreme, rather. Did you guys see the video? Totally. There's a YouTube video of, it's the 7 minutes of
wrestling
loading.
One?
Yeah, of SmackDown versus Raw 2006 or something.
Which I think is actually exceeded by the Xbox 360 version of the new Sonic the Hedgehog.
Oh
God! Which I also just had to
worst.
review in my. I want to tell you, I wanted to fly to Japan and strangle everyone at Sonic Team.
Dude, I just played the demo and I was bleeding out of my ass for weeks after.
I can't understand how they let that go. Like, I don't.
If I see anybody dressed as Sonic, I'm going to hit them. I'm going to walk up and punch them. Like, what have they done to my beloved Sonic the Hedgehog, man?
I don't know, but it's disgusting. It's really disgusting.
There hasn't been anything good about Sonic in years. I mean, the advanced titles were okay. Sonic Rush was all right, but none of them have matched up to the classic titles. And it's just,
the Wii Sonic's not bad, actually.
The one
I hear good things about that one, actually.
Yeah. And actually, the PSP Sonic is okay. And
that's okay. I get a little motion sickness, actually, from it.
Yeah, the cameras are going too fast. Yeah. But it was done in America. It was done by the...
But that one's more traditional.
Backbone.
It's definitely a little better, the PSP version.
But tell us your 5 things about the PSP.
Now that you've totally dismantled it, Victor, okay, fine. I'm kidding.
I think
that's a good point. It's something worth considering. Yeah, you're probably right. I agree that. See, that's the thing. It's like I got a PSP at launch. I bought when I got it at launch, I got Lumines and Metal Gear Acid, and those were the only games that I had for about a year. When Me and My Katamari came out, I bought that. When Valkyrie Profile came out, I bought that. So those were my 4 games for a long time. I got a lot of mileage out of Homebrew, but that has nothing to do with Sony's efforts to make it a successful machine. So I any of the fun that I have with it has more or less come from the community as opposed to Sony. So,
I guess at this point you could just say, well, here's the good reasons why you shouldn't throw it away or
yeah,
sell
exactly.
it.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what I was saying. It's like this was more I was writing this more for other early adopters like myself who have their PSPs collecting dust and want to do something with it. So the first point I came up with was there are actually, if you look at the shelves, there are a lot of really good games coming out that are coming out and that are already out. I mean, I spat out a laundry list, but most recently I just bought Power Stone Collection, which also has some pretty terrible loading times, but it's 2 of the best games on the Dreamcast.
Yep.
Now portable and available for Wi-Fi play. That's just great. Well, local, right in front of you Wi-Fi play. But
have you seen the Sonic Genesis or the Sega Genesis collection?
I have, yes, yeah. In fact, I was talking to Colette about that the other night, and she was just oozing over it because it's got all the Phantasy Stars and Streets of Rage.
Vector 1 and 2.
Yeah, and
Man.
And on top of that, I think a lot of people are paying attention to the system now that Metal Gear Solid Portable Ops is out. I mean, the game has some issues, but it's a fantastic game on a portable system. It's one of the most engaging. It's like a console experience on a handheld, which I don't think we've really come close to yet. I think that's as close as we've gotten so far. On top of that, I made a big stink about Capcom and how much support they're putting out for the PSP, which is really phenomenal if you think about it.
Yeah.
A lot of the games that they have are ports, but they're really good ports.
Even Mega Man is great again.
Well, yeah, but those are
PSP, man.
Yeah, well, but they don't do
saying
many
a lot.
full-fledged remakes. I mean, they have the 2 Mega Man games, Maverick Hunter X and Powered Up, and then they've got Ultimate Ghosts and Goblins. But all 3 of those games are absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, they are. Agreed.
And and then there's the big homebrew scene, which is really now blowing up now that. And I didn't mention this in the article because I couldn't ascertain whether or not it was safe, so I didn't want to spout anything about it. But now that people are figuring out how to load up custom firmware so they can run images of their own PlayStation games using a backwards, kind of like a reverse engineered PlayStation emulator, the same one that they use with the PS3 downloads, and that's really cool.
Yep.
Also, I'm just a huge fan of being able to play Sonic CD on a portable system. I'm just a huge whore for that. And finally, there's just a lot of really good stuff on the way. I mean, Square has really put a good foot behind. Not as good as what they've done for the DS, but they put a lot of effort behind what's coming up. I mean, you got the 2.
That Ratchet and Clank is good, man.
Yeah, you got Ratchet and Clank.
Victor, have you played that yet? Have you seen it?
I started it last night. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Pretty cool. I would say it's you're missing the Siphon Filter Dark Mirror game, which is awesome. It's definitely one of the cooler.
Oh no, that was on the first list of games that are already out.
Oh, okay, cool.
I just didn't mention it, but yeah, that's definitely probably.
I like the Bomberman on there actually.
SOCOM 1 and 2 are both great as well on the PSP. They're both really well done.
See, I still haven't gotten around to playing those, but I just because I wasn't a huge fan of SOCOM on the PS2, but I'm always looking for good games on the PSP.
They're awesome, and Mortal Kombat Unchained. If you're a fan of Mortal Kombat, that's really fun. And Tekken Dark Resurrection's awesome.
That one's awesome. Oh
Just
God, I love Tekken.
Staggering. And Lego Star Wars 2 is exactly the same as the console version. It's amazing. It's an I beat it on the PSP. I was playing it at home on the PlayStation 2 and the 360, but I played it a lot more on the PSP. It's fabulous.
You guys keep forgetting about Loco Roco.
And Loco Roco.
Yeah,
Okay,
Loco Roco's awesome.
I didn't want to bore you guys with the whole list, but that's in there too. There's a lot of good stuff.
There's good games. There
are
plenty
of good games. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
X-Men Legends and Marvel Ultimate Alliance, Justice League Heroes. All those games are pretty much the console version on the PSP.
Yeah.
That's the cool thing about the PSP. It can do all that, but it kind of bugs me that I've tried to download a few of the PS1 games for the PlayStation 3 store. And you have to hook up your PSP in order to do that. It has to be hooked up to your. It doesn't save it to the hard drive. You have to actually have enough room on your PSP memory card to download it directly into the machine. And of course, I don't. I don't have a 4 gig card yet. It's still coming. But that's one of the things that's kind of making me realize they need to move to a hard drive model. They have to do it if they're going to be in this business of selling their old library, which is a good business to be in. They need to have some kind of way to store that stuff in a higher capacity.
Let me ask you a question. When you say you buy a game like we'll say Hot Shots Golf, and you download it to your PSP, if you delete that off of your PSP memory card, can you download that again for free? Like, do they keep some kind of purchase record? I certainly hope so, because I've got a 512 stick, so if I ever want to do any downloading, I'm going to be restricted to one game max.
Especially if you get a PSP too.
Not even. They're 500
right.
They're 500 megs files, each of them, and they each come with a key. So it's going to fill.
See, I'm screwed.
Yeah. So they have to come up with some kind of hard drive solution or some kind of mega, memory stick card. I just bought a phone in Canada from Rogers Mobile, and it comes with a free 4 gig card. So I'm waiting for that to be shipped to me. But and I'm just going to fill it with old PlayStation 1 games that I buy from the store there.
Nice.
And Rogers is just being real good to you, aren't they?
So
they're our friends.
Moving on. Speaking of not good for some things, I guess this caught a lot of flack, which was weird that Nintendo stuff caught flack over the internet, but some people were upset that over on New Year's Day that Nintendo
no
released...
one complains about Nintendo on the internet, yeah.
Nintendo released 2 very, very boring crap virtual console games for everybody. For the US, they got Baseball and Urban Champion from the NES days instead of Mario Kart 64, blah, blah, blah. I mean, we could go on forever about all the great games in the catalog. So how much of a problem is this? Like, why can't Nintendo just dump it all or give us, 3 great games every week? What's going on here?
I think they're doing a pretty good job, actually. I actually think they're doing a pretty good job. I think they need to, first of all, they haven't even dented the amount of people that are going to have a Wii, and by the time they get into that 10 million audience, I think they want to be just at the point when they're releasing their marquee stuff.
Victor, what's the problem with just having it already available? How does that damage sales?
It won't damage sales, but it's going to be overwhelming for the new consumer. Somebody that's popping in this machine, and likely a lot of those people, this will be their first time online on a console. And if they've got to cycle through 60 pages of new virtual console games before they get to Mario Kart 64, it's going to be a drag for them. And I think that's one of the things that's kind of problematic with the way that the Xbox 360 blade structure has been until recently. They made some pretty good revisions. I think the PlayStation Store also needs to be tweaked as well. Just housing that information can be very tricky. And, once these libraries online become, 200, 300, 400, 500 games, it's going to be, very difficult to just, quickly get to the games that you want to find out there. So I think, and Nintendo actually, I think, has been pretty shrewd with the way that they're serving up their front end for the Wii. I think it's actually very television friendly as opposed to looking like something that would look better on a PC, which I think the other two systems are. And that also means that there's fewer games per page. So
I don't disagree with that. Frankly, though, I do kind of feel like this is a really important time period in any console's release, the first couple of months, because they're capturing a lot of people at that time, and they're going to decide, do we want to? They're going to develop their initial ideas about the console in those first couple of months, regardless of where they're going to go or not. A lot of people want to get rid of their PlayStation 3s right now and get Wiis because they think that the Wii is more fun, or they don't think that the PlayStation 3 has enough games out. And I think Nintendo has a brilliant opportunity at this point to give us a little bit of something to kind of make us go, oh my God, yes, Nintendo, and I mean, I see your point, but I still feel like they could offer us something a little bit more golden to us as far as what we remember as kids. Like, I played Punch-Out last night. Punch-Out is so fun. I want them to release that on the Virtual Console. I had a blast playing it, and if I had a Wii right now, and I was bored, and I was like, gosh, I don't really want to play Zelda, or I really, I'm waiting for a new game, and Punch-Out came out, I would spend my $5